Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast, WTF, What the Football. My name is Terry Fletcher. So this is week 5 of the WTF podcast, but I want to go back to Monday Night Football week 4. I didn't get to it last week, and I think it's important that you hear what happened, especially as it's going to affect the Steelers. So Seahawks lose 26-17. Russell Wilson, in the middle of the game, he dislocates his middle finger and he can't grip the ball. Well, that's what we thought. So he basically actually tore a ligament and had to have surgery that night. And it looks like he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So who entered the game? Geno Smith. And he actually played pretty well. Matthew Stafford also injured his pinky. We're like, what is with the fingers? It's almost like the Steelers and their groins, you know? WTF moment for sure. The Seahawks defense is on pace to give up the most yards in a single season in NFL history. So keep that in mind as we keep talking, because we're going to see them in week 6. But so Russell Wilson's out. And this will be the first time he didn't start ever since he's been with the Seahawks. So that guy just reminds me of Eli Manning, just a warrior. And shout out to Russell. No matter what, we definitely don't want him out of the game because he definitely makes it better. Matthew Stafford, after the game, was asked, so what did you do with your finger? And he's like, I just went to the sideline and popped it back in. Okay, ew, okay. So even when you're in the medical field like I am, you still kind of cringe when you see stuff like that. Well, the first thing, let's get back to week 5. So how many of you, and show of hands, and I can see you, how many of you actually got up and woke up for football in London on Sunday morning? Yeah, sure you did. I don't believe you, mainly because it was also a Jets-Atlanta game. And I know that I got up like 7 o'clock that morning. I'm usually an early riser for sure. Whenever I remember that there's actually football in London, I always try to get up and put it on. It's on NFL Network. And so I'm sitting there, I'm drinking my coffee, and I go to put on, listening to the talking heads, the pundit, check my fantasy football. And all of a sudden, we're in the second quarter of the London game. So anyway, the Jets versus Atlanta. Atlanta wins 27-20, and it was kind of a mess. So, poor Jets. I mean, they're 0-5. You know that their coach is like, just kill me now. And we had problems with kickers all weekend, so they also had the same trouble. So now let's look at the Steelers game. Well, oh my goodness. Where do I start with that? So we won. Okay, let's start with the positive. We won. Great. So opening drive, touchdown by Ben to Deontay Johnson. But then Ben was hit from behind in a next drive and fumbled. And luckily our defense kept the other team to a field goal. And remember, that was the Denver Broncos. Every team that we've played coming in is 3-1. So it's not like we're playing really bad teams. I mean, we beat Buffalo. So we're beating teams that actually have winning records, but we need to stop playing down. And I say I'm passionate about my Steelers. They need to stop playing down to the competition. And oh my gosh, a couple of years ago, we really did that. And what I mean by that, yes, we got our running game back. Shout out to Najee for going over 100 yards on the ground. But number 76, Okorafor, even though he played well, 2 penalties and false starts for that right tackle, he needs to step it up. And in practice, somebody needs to buzz him or really practice that not, moving. So, because that's killing us. You get penalties on that. It's a swing, and we have to be really just cognizant of when that happens. One of the sad things was Juju hit really hard in an end around and taken out in the second quarter with an apparent arm injury. Well, it turns out he actually went to the hospital, and it looks like he's going to be out for the season. He's going to have surgery. And actually, this was reported incorrectly, which here's my WTF on this. There's 2 of them on Juju's hit. First of all, the media, you know what, Brooke, and whoever else is reporting, you need to know if somebody actually had surgery. One said he had surgery. One said he's going to have surgery. He had his Juju Foundation dinner the next night, and so he was in a sling. but he did not have surgery yet. He's going to have it likely with this week, but it's not good. So he'll be out the rest of the season. And here's the other thing that I really want to shout out to some people, that if you're a Steelers fan, you support our players, all of our players. And when somebody gets hurt, I really am sad to see people say, oh, well, now he could focus more on his TikTok videos. Juju is a pillar of the community. I don't know if you saw the piece where he paid for a lady's groceries the other day because she forgot her debit card, and he does it silently. He doesn't take cameras with him. He doesn't showboat about it, and people find out about it because it's good works. And I still saw some negativity on that. I mean, how can you do that? So I'd actually like to challenge everyone to go to Juju's foundation and, just donate $19 for number 19. I think that would be a really nice thing to do for his foundation, because everything it does for the community. I donated myself, and I just think it's really important. So shout out to Juju. Hopefully he gets better. Remember, he took a discount to play for our team for a year and didn't go to who offered him more, which is Kansas City. And so we really just appreciate him no matter what. Great play by Claypool in the game. He did caught a wonderful 59-yard pitch and catch from Ben, and he had a stiff arm that was just awesome. I just loved it. And so that was a really good catch. He's going to see a lot more action, I'm sure. Now, one of the things I know the coaches say, what are you doing? Don't do that. Protect your body. But I love it when players, I do personally, when they hurdle over a player or they jump over the top. Well, what about Najee? I mean, his dive over the top for a touchdown was awesome. And somebody must have said to him, I don't care how you get into the end zone, get into the end zone. And it was seriously just amazing. So he just had a great game, not only on the ground game that we found holes, and the offensive line did a very good job this week. And I heard Ben say that he challenged them. So they stepped up to the challenge. But you know who is the most underrated player on our team? And I believe this. He doesn't get enough love from the media, and that's Cam Hayward. He is a beast out there. And remember, he's over 30 years old. And so he does a really good job. So I'm going to shout a WTF to the media. Give Cam Hayward some due there. Now, here's where I'm going to get into some of the coaching decisions. Why are we always running it on first down? Can't we at least consider a play action pass? I mean, they know it's coming. You'd be surprised how much that may work. So just try that. The basket drop to White in the red zone I thought was great. From 24-6 to 27-19 with 2 minutes left. We just had too many run plays with Snell. Now, I realized that Najee ended up with a cramp, and so he had to come out for a couple of plays. But why can't we throw in Derek Watt? Isn't he also a fullback? I mean, why are we just using him on special teams? We just aren't getting the yardage we need out of Snell. Please let that experiment just stop. We did win 27-19. Sealed with an interception by Pierre in the end zone. Great defensive back play. But the best part, and this was really funny, was Ben's ass shot. And that was a close-up we got with a little extra junk in the trunk, they said on the announcers. I mean, come on, you guys. So Ben had a hip pad on because during the week he had that bruised hip. He said it was pretty gnarly looking, but it was pretty funny. Give credit to, again, the offensive line for the Steelers. They completely neutralized Von Miller, who had no sacks and no tackles for losses. And that is hard to do. The other thing is, if you get a chance, go find the rant from Coach Cower from CBS that obviously used to be a Steelers coach. He went on a rant to Canada, and he basically talked about how just let Ben be Ben. Let Ben do what he needs to do. He's been in the league long enough. He knows what's going on. When we do no huddle, it's amazing how we get down the field. And so stop trying to stifle him. And I just loved his rant. So if you get a chance, go find that. It's quite something. So let's move on to more games. So Green Bay versus Cincinnati. Oh my goodness. So when our game's over, of course, they went to this game. And we couldn't stop watching it. It was like one of those train wrecks that would not stop. They had 5 missed field goals in 8 minutes. And these are all in a row, and some of them hit the uprights. Crosby, who's one of the greatest kickers of all times, he hit 3 in a row for misses. And then they kept going backwards in Green Bay. And then in overtime, since the 2-minute warning, and also in the fourth quarter, the Cincinnati kicker, pre-celebration on a missed field goal, and he hit a flag on the upright. And it's just like, you can't celebrate until the refs tell you you got it. And so the biggest thing here, this is the WTF. What have you done for me lately? And Crosby makes it in overtime, and he hits it for a 25-22 Green Bay win. And since he lost, and that's all we care about. Cincinnati lost, and that's in our division. So, and that's exactly what that was. And what have you done for me lately? Game for sure. The Dallas and New York Giants game, this was a sad game because of all the injuries. By the end of the game, there were 7 out of 11 starters out. That is insanity. Barkley had his ankle stepped on, and so he was out. Luckily, there's no damage. They came back and told us that. Daniel Jones, their quarterback, helmet to helmet, New York Giants quarterback, and he's out with a concussion. So Glennon was in. And then there was an Elliott fumble. Now, the Cowboys ended up winning, but that was an ugly game. Definitely a WTF moment. So let's look at the Raiders game. First of all, I'm just going to make a comment because we saw it on Monday Night Football. John Gruden is out as the Raiders coach. He resigned due to inappropriate emails. That's all we're going to say about it. Go to ESPN, who has the full story on what happened, and it's definitely a what the football. It was shocking for all of us when we saw that. So the Raiders game, Raiders running back jumps over for a TD, but the ball falls into the defensive hands, but it still broke the plane. So if you are going to make those leaps into the end zone, make sure that you know where the ball is. And do I have to mention Tom Brady? Jeez, what the football. I do. He throws 5 touchdowns to beat Miami. How old is he again? I don't know, 155? Who knows? Tennessee beats Jacksonville, who are now 0-5. Urban Meyer not exactly keeping his job after his College Bar fiasco, but we'll see what happens with that. It almost is like he did it on purpose, where he's thinking, this is not for me. So just keep an eye on that situation over in Jacksonville. Browns at Chargers. Okay, with 26 seconds left, but injury timeout on Chargers. This helped the Browns, who had no timeouts left. And this game was just comical. The game score was 47-42. And yes, the Los Angeles Chargers win. And it was a Hail Mary tried by Baker Mayfield, that was incomplete. But here is the really funny part. I mean, talk about a WTF game. We were dying laughing. Austin Eckler, the running back for the Chargers, kept trying to stay out of the end zone and stay in the field of play, not go out of bounds, so that the clock would continue to run because they were winning. But look at how many points are on the board. He was like, I'm not giving them back the ball because they could score. And obviously defense was not showing up for either team. But it was funny because when he went down to the end zone, he could have walked in. He could have walked in to get the touchdown. But he kept trying not to go in and just kind of dance around with the ball. But the Browns players pushed him into the end zone. It was seriously funny. He kept trying not to go in, and he was resisting. Funniest thing I've ever seen. And then the Browns, basically, they had 42 points, 532 yards on offense, 0 turnovers, and lost. How does that happen? I mean, I can't say I'm upset about the loss. Also, they had a pretty bad referee issue in their game. So the Browns defensive back, A.J. Green, he got called for defensive pass interference. But when you look at it, the wide receiver Williams on the other team had a hold of Green's jersey that was pulling him down so that he could catch the ball. And actually, nobody ended up doing it. And it should have been OPI, offensive pass interference. So Baker Mayfield came out after and said, before he even started to talk about it, he's like, just fine me now. I know I'm going to get fined for this. But he called out the refs. And you'll notice because Joey Bosa did it last week, they're starting to say, you know what, it's worth every penny to put it in, in the media, put it out there that the referees are not doing their job. So refs stink. I'm going to shout out to Brian there. And right now it's pretty bad. It just, oh my gosh, it's just terrible. On a funny note, and this is a fantasy note, the Chargers had -3 points and the Cleveland Browns had -1. So if those were your fantasy pickups, you didn't do so hot there. But I took the over in that game, which was 52, and we ended up with 89 points. Yeah, I won my parlay. Just funny. So let's move on to Sunday Night Football. Buffalo at Kansas City. And so we're looking at Buffalo wings or Kansas City barbecue. Well, how often does the media just say Kansas City all day, every day? It doesn't matter. Well, this one was actually split. There was some media people that thought Buffalo might pull it out, and they did. But this was a crazy, crazy game that took forever because we had a lightning and rain delay of about an hour right in the middle of the game. Try being in the United Kingdom. They were tweeting out saying, I don't know if we're going to stay with you guys. It's 3:38 a.m. And so we really can't keep up. But here's the thing that I think is unfair. And a couple of the coaches are saying that they've had to deal with this in the past. So apparently in Kansas City, and I've been to Kansas City Stadium before. I used to speak for a pharmaceutical company back in the day when I was traveling a lot more. And we used to use their stadium for venues to have physicians come and I'd speak there. Well, it was interesting because I've never seen the visitors' locker room. Well, Michelle Tafoya for Sunday Night Football, she was actually interviewing some of the players in the hallway by the visiting locker room because it was too hot. So it wasn't the conditioned, beautiful, big locker room that they had on the Kansas City side. They had Bill sitting in the hallway. They were complaining, okay, here's first world problems. Totally WTF. Too much peanut butter on the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches they were eating. And the home locker room was definitely spacious, and it was absolutely too hot in the other locker room. But then this is how bad it got. So as far as the delay, nobody knew what to talk about. So Mike Tirico, Drew Brees, and Tony Dungy, they're all sitting at the table. And when Drew Brees has to start talking about grape or strawberry jelly and how to cut the sandwiches, you know there's too much time on your hands. That's what it's come down to. But that game was pretty interesting. Buffalo won, which helps the Steelers because we beat them. But once it resumed and Josh Allen hurdling for first downs, Mahomes had a couple of picks. What a crazy game that was. But yes, Buffalo ended up pulling that out. So then we get into the Monday Night Football game. Oh my goodness. Okay, so, and I'm not allowed to use profanity here, but I'm telling you, I used it at home because it was Colts at Baltimore. And I don't know how you feel about this, but whenever I watch certain teams play, you just know the refs are going to be for that team. And you're trying to say that, no, that doesn't happen, and you're not trying to blame everything on the refs. But think about how many times when Brady was with the Patriots that he would get a roughing the passer call when he had a slight bump, or when you were dealing with just anybody that was kind of a beloved media guy. It just seems like there's always some slant there. Well, it happens in Baltimore as well. So Wentz played terrible. He had 2 fumbles lost, so let's not give him too many shout outs. But then Lamar Jackson fumbles at the 6-yard line. And that's one of his 3 fumbles, which of course the media doesn't even want to call out that. Only 2 got called, but he did have 3, and they're like, oh no, his knee was down. Yeah, sure it was. But he fumbles at the 6-yard line. Then Darius Leonard on the Colts picks up the fumble and passes it back. But they call it back and said it was a forward pass because of where he caught it at the 26-yard line, even though it was passed at the 25. I don't know if I buy it. When I first looked at it, I thought it was a forward pass, but they called it that way. But it definitely, if you look at it in slow time, it really should have stood. And then they scored a touchdown, but they called it back. But they ended up scoring a touchdown in that drive. But because of kickers' issues, the Colts ended up going for 2. And Wentz throws an interception, but out of the interception, the player went out of bounds. He could have only run it back for 2 on a 2-point conversion, but they didn't get that extra point because, again, kicking issues. And with around 30 seconds left in regulation of, again, a tie game, they needed a 42-yard field goal to win. But who missed? Yes, their kicker, Blankenship, missed again. They also were saying he had hip issues during the game. At one point, they threw out their punter to try to get it, and he just shanked it. He's not a kicker. So in overtime, they had a chance again through a field goal to win the game. But if you continually give the ball back to the Ravens, eventually they're going to score. And they did, unfortunately, 31-25, they won. But I wish the media would stop anointing Lamar Jackson as this football god. He played terrible. I mean, in one sense, yes, did he have over 400 passing yards? Well, I would too if you gave me 3 hours to play, football, 4 hours to play it. If you keep giving the ball back, eventually just because you're out there, you're going to get those yards. So when you lose the ball and you don't protect the ball and the other team scores from that lack of protection, please stop saying how great he is. I did win in my fantasy league, even though the Ravens did win. That was a bummer. I would have rather them lose. Lose all in my fantasy leagues, but have the Ravens lose instead of them win and me win in fantasy. So I was a little bummed about that. My husband's really bummed. Tom he loses his mind when anybody in the AFC North wins. So it was a really fun time watching it with Tom. So shout out to you, dear. But anyway, we're now on to Seattle at home. No Russell Wilson to go against, but we are going against Geno Smith. And like I said, he played well last week. And we have no Juju. So hopefully this brings a bigger role for our tight ends and James Washington, who's been underutilized. But can we just stop with the Benny Snell experiment? I'm just going to go back to that. Let's get Derek Watt in there. Let's really look at Ballage. Let's look at somebody else that can carry that ball and also protect it, but get some yardage after the catch when we need to give a breather to Najee. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, long, long season. All right, everyone, that's the end of WTF for week 5. On to week 6. Make it a great day and a great week, and thank you for listening to the Steel City Underground podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.